sort of didn't come with anything, so I'm just checking in with what came, or with what's here now, you know. Sort of used to doing the work on feeling or beliefs or thoughts, whatever, when there's stress, and so not feeling it right now. There's a good place to start. Let's say, hey, I'm sitting down to do my daily work like I am now. I'm not feeling very stressed at all. I guess one I would go back to a worksheet or something, or probably isn't too hard to find something if I look. What do you do, Todd? I know you do this daily, and you know, makes me think of like the rhythm that a writer has when they sit down, and sometimes there's nothing coming out. So,
Hmm.
how does that look?
That's a
Open
great
question.
question. Yeah, it is kind of like similar to the rhythm of a writer, because on the one hand, we like to write when we have inspiration, right? Or we like to, an artist would want to do art when they have inspiration, but it's not always inspiration. So how do you do that? And I can remember as a photographer, I used to I used to have a newsletter every week, which I created new photos for, and I would just sort of have to go out and find something. And it's like kind of bleak outside and not really, I was nature photography, not really much I was inspired to see, but I just go out there. And as I drove around and looked, suddenly something would catch my eye. Oh, that's interesting. And then I'd have an idea, and then I'd follow that, and then I'd follow that. And pretty soon I came back with a number of cool new photos that were something I liked and something that I could share with my readers. Same thing with writing, writing my newsletter today or writing like right now, I've been working for the last 3 months on the Work 102 course. Pretty much every day, I'm writing for at least an hour or sometimes more. And where's the inspiration coming from, right? So these are analogies I'm throwing out here, but it's very similar to doing the work. Um, when you do the work every day or even every week, some kind of regular schedule, some days you're going to have a lot of stress that you're ready to do the work on, and some days you're not going to have any stress. You're not going to feel like you need to do the work. And of course, you don't have to do the work, but there's a value in just showing up like I did with the photography. Just go out and drive around on a gray day and see what kind of stuff I might find. And so when I do that, to sit down and do the work on a daily basis, I will do one of two things. And you actually mentioned already these. One is I may have written a worksheet some days ago, and I'm just slowly working my way through it. So I don't have to come up with a new stressful situation every time I sit down to do the work. The
Hmm.
first day, yes, I had to find the situation. And then the next day or next several days, I'm just taking another piece of that worksheet and working on another stressful thought from that worksheet. So that's a very easy way to make it work, just practically. I come up with a new situation every week or two, and then I work on a daily basis on the thoughts that I wrote down on the worksheet. Then the other method is the one-liner method, or just kind of spur of the moment method, which is, okay, what's bothering me right now? Oh, nothing's bothering me. Oh, okay, I don't have to do the work. Or um, nothing's bothering me, but is there anything I'd like to think about working? Um, Anything from my past, or maybe something that um, is maybe not in the forefront of my awareness right now, but it's something that I would like to explore. And now I have the time to explore. So let me try that. Or I look at right now, today, and I think, nothing's bothering me. But if I drill down, increase the sensitivity maybe of my of my meter, then I'll start to see there are little blips and little highs and little lows, even in today's overall high or good day. And so I might look at one of those tiny little spots and say, "Oh, that bothered me just a little bit," um, and then go from there. So it doesn't have to be earth shattering. Sometimes we do the work on traumas or on big things, and that's a wonderful thing to do. But sometimes the little small things that come up can be incredible. The shower isn't working right, or the drain isn't working right, or some little thing on my computer, or it could be anything. I just recently did the work on uh, vacation scheduling because I just noticed I wasn't scheduling enough vacations and it was bugging me. And I was like, my stressful thought was, I don't know how to schedule vacations or something like that, right? And I worked through it and turned it around, and then from there started going into a little living turnaround of learning how. I taught myself how. I've already got schedule lined up now for next year, so it's kind of cool. So it doesn't have to be um, huge. I guess that's my main point. Um, so that's how I approach it. I just give myself the time. I schedule the time, and I think that helps a lot. I know what time of day, when I'm going to be doing my work each day. It's in my calendar, and I respect my calendar, so I just go with the flow. And then during that time that I have, I'm going to just work on whatever inspires me, or I'll just keep working on work that I've already set up for myself. But I'm there. I don't have to think much about what I'm going to do. I just show up and then just run with either something immediate or something that I've got ready to go. Yeah, Edwin.
Yeah, with that same perspective, is there a way that you use to like identify? I noticed like in my personal experience, there's some like very small things like you kind of like put under the rug. Is like, oh, this is not a big thing, or you just think like, oh, it's okay, but then it starts like building up, and when you notice it, it's like huge. So how can you identify like those things of when you're like more open to things happening and they're actually not a big deal for you, than those ones, small ones that start like building up to create a big mess later on?
Yeah. And sometimes it's hard to tell. I don't know if I have a good answer for that because when they start out, they're all very small. It doesn't seem like much. And so you can just dismiss them in a way. Or if you have the time and you have the habit, you might start to work on them. So I don't think it matters too much. I don't think you have to know. I think just trust that if something's coming up for you, then go for it. And if you think it's too small and you miss it and it keeps building, then it will come louder and louder until you finally say, okay, I'm going to answer this call. So that's the beauty of your stress is that you can trust it. It will keep bugging you until it gets dealt with. And it starts as a whisper and ends out with a yelling, or it can just be like pounding on you to try to get your attention. And so I don't worry too much. Like the more I do my work, and this is how I love doing it on a regular basis, I'm pretty much always taking care of the big ones. They're getting dealt with right away, and there's no backlog or not too much backlog of old ones. And so as the loud, big, problematic stresses get dealt with, they're cleared off and there's room for looking for the smaller ones. And as you keep doing it, there's room for smaller and smaller ones. And what you're actually doing is you're catching them earlier and earlier and earlier um, as you continue doing your work. So this is the beauty of a practice of the work, actually doing it every day, is that you're not just cleaning house once a month or something. You're cleaning it every day. And so someone is doing that is going to have less of a job every day, but they're going to start getting into the finer aspects of it. And it can get very, very subtle. You can be dealing with just the whisper of a stress. And when you're questioning that, you're turning it around. Now you've prevented it from becoming a huge big issue in your life. So I love using the work for prevention. That's how I like to see it. Yeah.
Wow, so many wonderful points that we touched on already, and um, I love this phrase I keep hearing you use, Todd. Trust your stress. Uh, I realized as I think back, when I was about to answer the question, I was feeling that slight bit of pressure of like, hey, it's quiet. We sometimes feel that pressure. It's like we're waiting and we're on this call, so we're on this video, so hey, you better come up with something. And there's that little bit of stress, but or there was for me, and being having like cultivating patience for me, cultivating the patience to sort of sit with that or sit through that. um, maybe that goes away, and maybe I notice, hey, there's not much here right now, and I'm just waiting for, part of trusting your stress could be, hey, something's really loud and it's coming at me and it's time to deal with it, not avoid it. And another could be like, hey, I can't find any stress around here, let me just wait on it, and maybe it will come. And it reminds me of some things that I encountered early on when I started the Work 101, which is this idea of, kind of going with what's really real for you, in a sense, where real is like what's got the charge, and that's where we start to get into me to like the work as a meditative practice. It's like not jumping at the first thing that comes that the mind wants to grab onto, or making something up so I can, do the work. It's like there's an opportunity to wait, and if nothing comes, then nothing comes, but you'll know it when it does.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. It's a meditation, right? Meditation is like giving space for myself. In this case, we're looking for stress. It's a funny kind of meditation we do here, but it's a way of waiting to be shown what is bothering me. Maybe nothing's bothering me. Great, okay, but let me just be aware of what my internal experience is, and and then take it from there. And I always come back to, I don't have to do the work. That's also true. So,
Mm.
right, it's just however much or little as I want to do, but there's something special about doing it every day. Like I used to do it 5 days a week, and I really liked that. But sometimes I get to four, and then about a year ago, I decided I'm gonna make it like really every day. I'm just gonna, because I realize it's partly just psychological. I'm like, oh yeah, I don't want to do it every day, or not weekends, but I just decided I'm just gonna try it, and it took me a little while just to get that momentum going, but now I love it, and I don't have any resistance to it every day. And it's a different thing. Like every day I'm touching in on that, touching in, touching in, touching in. And it's a cool experience. So yeah.
And when you get to that point where it's a daily rhythm, I can imagine that, what comes to mind is like this. You often hear the advice for folks that can't sleep to not do anything in their bed except sleep, because there's this conditioning that happens, this process of like learning your, not just your mind or your conscious thinking mind, but your whole organism like learns, hey, it's bedtime and I'm going to sleep. And it's just a natural process. And so, if you're showing up every day, I would think that there's the possibility of some similar process where your whole being is like ready at that point for the work, and and how that could really be interesting.
It is. It becomes something that I look forward to, something I enjoy doing. The analogy I sometimes use is like having a bath, and I've got this built-in time in my day to have my bath, and no matter what I discover, no matter how trivial the subject, no matter how important, whatever, it's going to be a pleasant experience for me because I like doing the work. I like exploring the opposite of what I think just to see what's there. And so the experience is, it just sort of warms me a little bit. It makes me feel a little more buoyant. And after a session, I'm just sitting a little taller, and that's a great way to start the rest of my day.
anything we do, every day is bound to become a part of who we are, just like a part of us.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the work as meditation practice.
And it does.
Um,
It kind of goes out after, like, because you're in such a habit of doing the work, your mind starts to think that way. And so you'll be out in the world running into some little stressful situation, and you're already finding turnarounds, and you're finding, who would you be without the thought? And you're watching how you react. And like the whole thing just starts to happen automatically without much thinking about it. Yeah.
it's amazing when it happens in real time. It's just barely starting for me, but I think the first time or two, certainly the first time I became really fully conscious of that happening in real time, that I was like, the first like, is it true? You know, I mean, in the way that I knew that it came from the work too. Like it was phrased just that way. It's like, is it true? And I was like, oh, just this immediate like wiggle room, as to use your phrase, around the situation. And I'm like, oh, the fruits of practice. This is so great. It certainly doesn't happen all the time,
Yeah.
or even that frequently. But yeah, and it just I don't know. One theme that's emerging for me in this conversation is the work as meditation. I'm just comparing it to what I understand about other meditative practices and my own experience with like sitting meditation. You know, like you said, it just becomes something that will happen spontaneously on its own, or may happen spontaneously on its own, and then it just becomes kind of like a natural process that sort of starts to take on its own evolution, its own development.
Exactly. I mean, the work is a natural process, and it just reminds us to do what we naturally do. Like, we naturally, when we get stressed, start to question everything. That's what we all do, regardless of knowing anything about the work. But the work just formalizes and makes it so streamlined and effective at getting to the heart of it quickly, that the mind recognizes that after a few times. It's like, wow, okay, I want more of that. I want to keep going with this, and that allows, um, yeah. So it's like we're not introducing even anything unnatural. We're just building on what we already naturally do.
Yeah, even the turnarounds are, I mean, we probably do some form of that or another, but we may not be so structured or aware of it. The turnarounds always feel to me a little bit more like the stretching point. Maybe stretching is not the right word, but um, yeah, I'm just remembering on a drop-in session the other day. I was working on one, and I think normally I pride myself on kind of solving problems. So I was kind of approaching it like a mental problem solving exercise. And like, okay, let's like to what I said earlier, let's just kind of wait and for it to be real. Like, can we kind of feel a way that this could be real? It just wasn't coming, just wasn't coming for a while. I'm like, hey, wow, this is really, really hard. And just kind of felt like something wasn't I took that to mean like, hey, I really can't turn this around, or not can't, but that's not available at this moment, right? Emotionally, like some part of
Yeah.
me is just going like, hey, I don't see it. Uh,
And that's
you know?
listening to yourself as well, right? Otherwise, you would just power through it. You could just say, let me just turn on my intellect and pump out a turnaround example, and it'll make sense, it'll sound good, but that's not the exercise. The exercise is check in with yourself and find something real, as you were saying, and something that's connected to you, that makes sense to you. And so I may have to give myself space to do that, and I may not find anything. And that's the risk that you take for doing it in this meditative way. But if you don't, it's just going to be an intellectual exercise. You might as well play Sudoku or something. It doesn't really, it's not going to change your life.
Yeah, yeah, wow, yeah.
I mean, so that's why I would rather give myself the space to look for a turnaround, like turnaround example, and then find that I didn't find anything, but I gave myself time and gave myself some space, and then just say, okay, well, I'm not finding anything, then I'll just move to the next turnaround and we'll see where it goes from there. So you don't have to find something for every turnaround. You just do what you can. Like I say, knock on doors. Some doors open, some don't. But keeping it real, I think, is the highest priority. Otherwise, if it's not connected to something inside, what's the point?
Mm. It seems like that's a real potentially, I don't know, fruitful starting point too, is if one's starting to have some form of stress, however we call it, some inner discomfort around not having anything, there's probably something there. There may be an ability to sit with that and say, hey, why do I think I need, what do I need, and wait on that, you know. If one's bringing to, I'm thinking again of sitting meditation practice, if one's bringing to sitting meditation practice like uh, this idea that they're in need of help or that it's going to fix things, you've heard some teachers say, if that's what you're doing, well, you're not here, you're not really you're not really connected to the present moment. So yeah, same kind of thing.
Yeah, cool. Well, any other thoughts or anything else you want to bring up related to this topic or anything else? Okay. Well, I think we'll just stop there. And thank you for the discussion. Thank you for the cool ideas. Fun to kind of talk about the work sometimes and just think about it this way. And I love this theme of, the work as a meditation. It's kind of what we were floating around here. And meditation can start from any point, from a point of a lot of stress, from the point of a little bit of stress, or a point of no stress. And all kinds of options are there as long as you're not as long as you don't have a preconceived idea of what it should look like or where it should go or how you should do it. It's just an open story. Okay. And I think that's what makes it interesting. Every time you sit to do the work, it's a different experience. And you never know what you're going to find. There's so many surprises. That's what I love about this process. What I discover today might be similar to what I discovered in the past, but chances are there's going to be a new take on it, or it might be completely new or something completely unexpected. And yeah, that's well worth the time in my experience.